Hi everyone, it's me, Tim. Today I want to talk about the attributes in Fallout, the special attributes, and I want to talk about exactly what they do. Part of the reason I want to do this is about almost a year ago, someone on Reddit was saying how they like games that have luck in them, and I explained what luck did in Fallout, like in detail, and I realized I had a document that about the time we shipped or shortly after, I wrote down exactly what all the attributes did, and I still have that document. Um, but I know I had originally written it down on paper, so I went to go look for it. And while I was looking for it, by the way, I found this. This is a original Fallout shirt that still says GURPS on it. I've never even worn this shirt. I found it in a box. While I was looking for the paper version of my notes on special, I couldn't find them. So this started a broader search. I looked for my original physical notes. I know I had a few from Rags to Riches, and I couldn't find those. So then I went looking for a programming book that I bought when I was in high school, or maybe very early college, that I used on the very first game I worked on, Grand Slam Bridge, which was written in C. And I know I had that book. I remember packing that book. I cannot find that book. So I'm now worried that at least one box got lost when I moved up here, and I'm almost positive I know what happened. We moved using a pod because it was the middle of COVID, where they drop an empty pod at your house and you fill it up yourself, and then they take it to your new house and you empty it yourself. Problem was I injured my leg before the move. I had already boxed up the house, but I could barely walk. So I ended up hiring movers to fill the pod. And I had a box of junk stuff and a box of things that were going to friends. And at least once I found that the movers would bring things down from upstairs and set them in the living room to take out to the pod, but they set it right next to the junk pile. And one time I even said, "That's not junk." And the mover's like, I know, I'll get it. I now worry that one of those boxes was placed really close to junk and was left there by the movers and then by me. So now it's gone. Nothing's been lost because I digitized all those notes, but I'm really bummed because I wanted the physical copies, especially because they had pictures drawn on them. So those are gone. Also means, though, that because I found a bunch of shirts, no danger of me repeating a shirt. I know I accidentally repeated a Spacer's Choice shirt once, so I've already technically repeated shirts, but I can go for a while now with new shirts. So I thought this is appropriate since I want to talk about Fallout. The thing about what I'm going to talk about is I don't know. I'm going to talk about the systemic effects of the attributes. There were scripts that checked your attributes, and of course, they're checked in dialogue, and I didn't go through all of that. I would have to play the game multiple times to figure that out. It'd be a lot easier if I could just search through the files, but the so these are the systemic effects. And I'm not going to include things like prereqs for perks because that's obvious. I'm going to talk about the things that each attribute does in code so that when you spend points on them, this is what they're doing. So I will go through them in special order. And also, I have noticed that some of the wikis I checked are wrong. Mostly they're incomplete, meaning they don't list all the things every attribute does. Some of them are also incorrect, kind of implying that an attribute does something and it's not exactly what they do. So this is accurate as far as I can tell, exactly how we shipped Fallout. So let's start with S for strength. So strength improves your base skill in unarmed and melee. So as you upped your strength, your base skill got higher. So you didn't have to put as many points in it later. It also increased your hit points, your melee damage, and your carry amount. And those are just automatic. They just added right. We call those derived stats inside the game. It also reduces your hit chance. If you're below the min strength for a weapon, your hit chance with that weapon is reduced for every point you're below that min strength. Strength also increases the range of any thrown weapon. Not a ranged weapon, but anything you threw, like a grenade or we had a couple, like, I think we had throwing knives and a couple other things you could throw. By the way, that adds to the Heave Ho perk. So the Heave Ho perk increased the range of thrown weapons. That was additive with strength. So if you had both, you could throw really far. So the next one is in special is perception. And perception improved your base skill in first aid, doctor, lockpick, and traps. Perception also improves your sequence in combat. So when you got your sequence determined, where you were going to go in turn-based order, the higher your perception, the earlier you went. It also increased the range for both ranged and thrown weapons before a distance penalty would kick in. So normally, the farther away somebody was, the lower your 2-hit would become. Perception increases the radius at which there is no penalty. And then it starts to drop off after that. So somebody really far away is less of a penalty if you have a high perception than a low, because it didn't stop dropping off until quite a distance. And so it doesn't drop off as far for that distance person. So the next one in special is endurance. E. Endurance improved your base skill outdoorsman. It also increased your hit points, your heal rate. So you had more hit points and you healed them faster if you had a high endurance. It also increased your base resistance in both radiation and poison. So that could also be improved with consumables or armor, those resistances. But your base, it was additive to your base, and your base was higher with endurance. Your endurance also, the higher your endurance, the lower the chance is that you will automatically be put up to the next higher radiation sickness level if you had a high enough radiation. The way radiation worked in Fallout, the base game, was when you took radiation, when you took rads, the total was kept, but you didn't automatically get sick. What it would do is periodically it would check. And if you were at a lower radiation sickness level than your current rad level indicated, it would only move you up 1. It would move you towards it. So you'd gradually get sick. So if you took a ton of radiation at once, you'd get a little sick, and then a lot sick, and then really sick. That chance of going up each time was reduced if you had a higher endurance. You would eventually, of course, it was never 0, so you eventually would get sick, but you would get sick more slowly if you had a high endurance. And then finally, endurance factored into critical hits in the following way. The chance that a critical headshot would knock you out was reduced by endurance. The chance that an arm or a leg shot would cripple that limb was reduced with endurance. And the fact that a groin shot would either knock you down or knock you out was reduced with endurance. So that gets us up to C, charisma. Charisma improved the base skill in speech and barter. It also improved the reaction that NPCs would have to you. So there was a base reaction based on charisma, and then it would be adjusted by things you did and reputations you could get. And that's it. That's the only thing charisma did. So I see why a lot of you use it as a dump stat. If I was going to remake Fallout today, that would change. I do know it also limited. There was a charisma limit on how many companions you could get. Yeah, that was something we threw in. It was, some people hated it, some people loved it. The people who hated it was like, well, now I can't get companions and they're super fun. I'm like, well, you just can't have all of them at once. And it's not like they talk to each other like the Outer Worlds companions did. But okay, charisma doesn't do much. So let's go on to intelligence, the one that does a lot. So intelligence improved your base skill in first aid, doctor, science, repair, and outdoorsman. It also increased the skill points you got every single time you leveled up, which is a huge problem when you're playing a dumb character, because you get so little skill points and you're already have 5 skills below normal. And speaking of dumb, intelligence modified conversation options, not just dumb ones. Some of them you can only get if your intelligence was high enough. But intelligence also, and this is one I didn't see in a lot of places online, intelligence controlled how long it took you to read a book to get its benefit. So in Fallout, if you found something, you could read it and it would give you a bonus. but it would fade out and fade in and say, okay, you've now read this thing and you have this bonus. Time would pass as it was faded out to indicate you were reading. The length of time it took you to read was shortened with higher intelligence. I don't know if anybody ever noticed that. I don't know if anybody ever cared, but that's what it does. So then we get to agility. Agility is interesting. It has a very short list of what it does, but it is a very powerful stat. Agility improves the base skill in a lot of skills. Small guns, big guns, energy guns, unarmed, melee, throwing, sneak, lockpick, steal, traps. That's a lot. But it also increased both your action points that you got every round and your armor class. Wow. Agility was like the stat. On paper, it looked like, oh, okay, it only does a few things, but just those agility points alone, or the action points alone, make agility great. And finally, that brings us to luck. And this is one of the things I wrote on that Reddit post. But I actually, since I did it, I was like, oh, there was a back page. So here's everything luck does. 1, luck is the base attribute for gambling. So the higher you put points in luck, you automatically have a higher gambling skill. Luck also increases the chance of a critical success with any skill, both inside and outside combat. So when you pickpocket somebody with steal, you can get a critical success. When you pick a lock, when you do first aid, all of those can get critical successes more easily if you have a higher luck. Luck also had a bunch of extra effects inside of combat. So luck increases the chance that any attack becomes a critical success, but it also decreases the chance that any failure becomes a critical failure. Luck also breaks ties between two combatants that have the same sequence number. So I said perception gives you a better sequence number. If your sequence number ties with someone, then the game compares your luck, and the one with the highest luck goes first. Finally, luck increases the chance that a ranged attack, which uses the sniper perk, becomes a critical hit. So if you take the sniper perk and it says, hey, some of your range attacks become criticals, you get even more with luck. So it's additive with the perk. Or, it doesn't do it by itself. Once you have the perk, luck kicks in. And finally, well, actually, no, that is why there is a back page. So on the world map, luck adds to the chance that you will have a special random encounter, but there are minimum luck scores, which means some encounters literally you cannot get unless your luck is high enough. And this is why some people would play the game and say, I never encountered the flying saucer, or I never found the Nuka-Cola truck. If you lower your luck to 1, you will not have some special encounters. And finally, and this is the one I totally forgot about, when you shoot someone in the eye, there's a chance it blinds them, but that chance is reduced by luck. So really lucky people will almost never get blinded if they're shot in the eye. And that was it. That was everything that was on that. I think that's everything. Of course, I didn't include perks, and if it was a script that checked it, or dialogue, I didn't look. Also be aware that base Fallout shipped with a bug where you could get critical failures and successes on skills, but you couldn't get them when you rolled against attributes. And that's why there was like the supercomputer Zax in the Glow. He checked against one of your skills when you played him chess, and the script would check against critical success. And that literally can't happen. So don't know if it ever got modded in, but I know that was something that we never noticed, and it got noticed way past when we did the last patch. So I'm not sure that ever got patched by Interplay, and I hope it got patched by a modder. God, it'd be so trivial to fix that. There are a lot of things about Fallout that would be trivial to fix. Anyway, I hope that is a nice definitive list of everything that Special does in Fallout.